Hi everyone, it's Anna here from Journeys. I'm here to answer another question in the Ask Me Anything About Burnout series. The question today is, how did you break the burnout cycle? So if you don't know what the burnout cycle is, I'll just tell you the stages, but you can go back to the video that I post before this on our Facebook page or Instagram. There's a quick clip there of me introducing the burnout cycle, but basically goes through the stages of normal life. We enter into a struggle, we have a catalyst moment, we go through a stage of resting, reviewing and recovering, and then we create a new normal. And so the question is, how did you break the burnout cycle? So I call it a cycle because the amount of people that I work with and talk to when they share with me that they've had burnout, they talk about how many times they've had burnout. I guess it's an interesting concept to me around that. The majority of people have had burnout more than once. And as I reflect on my life, I can totally see spaces or times in my life where I could have got burnt out again. And one was my first full-time job after I got burnt out. I remember my counsellor at the time saying to me, Anna, you know that the longer you do something that you don't like or that is a real struggle for you and there's no space for making changes in that in your workplace, the quicker to burnout you're going to get again. And it really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so true. Like being in situations that are really hard for us, where changes can't be made, is draining for us. And really quickly we're going to experience less motivation, which can turn into bitterness around our organisation or our job or our family members or wherever it is that we're beginning to have the struggle and feel burnt out. And so the question is, how did I break the cycle? So I guess I'm looking at this question in a way of what has helped me to not go back into burnout again. So another question that I got is, did I burn out once or more than once? And I would say I've only burnt out once. I would say I've been close to getting burnt out again several times since then. And it's only been people in my life who have really challenged me around how am I actually looking after myself? What are the things that I'm slowly starting to let go of in regards to what's important for me to look after myself? And that stuff slowly happens, like recently I experienced it where I was like, man, I'm feeling unmotivated. I'm grumpy with people. My spatial awareness isn't very good. Something's shifting and I'm struggling a little bit. And so with some conversations, I realized that these are the signs that we need to become aware of. And for me, they're the signs that are important for me to know when I'm not doing well and when I need to go, Anna, get back into gear, look after yourself, set your boundaries, know what you need. And one of them is sleep. Like I was just realizing I wasn't having as much sleep as what I needed to. So a couple things helped me to break the burnout cycle. One was definitely regular counselling, and I know I say that a lot and have in these videos as well. And obviously as a counsellor, I'm an advocate for counselling, that it can be really helpful for us to, I guess, look at ourselves in the mirror and reflect on what's actually going on for us and what's working and what's not working. Now, it doesn't have to be with a counsellor to do that. It might be a mentor or a pastor or a close friend who has a deeper understanding of this kind of stuff. But if you go to a counsellor or someone similar in a professional context, often there can be different changes that can happen as opposed to simply journeying it with a friend. Counsellors can help us identify where we've learned these behaviours and why they're coming up again. Whereas sometimes when we simply talk to our friends, we're debriefing, which is so important. I would say have counselling and make sure that you're journeying with people who you're close to in your personal life. Another part for me was simply admitting that I had burnout, and further to that, admitting that I'm not immune from getting burnt out again. To me, that's a really important thing. Absolutely no one at all is immune to getting burnt out. It can hit us from left field. We have no idea where it's come from. And often that's what happens. And that's often where in the catalyst that happens. We don't realize that something has been shifting, that some things have been changing that are causing us to feel like something's not quite right. And sometimes it's a big event or it's a significant thing that happens in our life, unfortunately, that often makes us realize where we're actually at. So for me, admitting that I was burnt out was really important. And further now, as I continue to sit in maintenance mode, as I call it, is that I'm not immune from getting burnt out again. And that just means that, but I don't want to experience it again. And this is what I hear as well. So many people who have been burnt out at least once say, I don't ever want to go back there. And that's why, I guess, remembering what it felt like, remembering what it felt like to be so exhausted that you couldn't be present with the people around you, remembering what it felt like to say yes to everything and not be living your true self. Those kinds of things were big for me. I withdrew from my community and had to really look at who I wanted to have in my life and what that meant for living every day to be the best me that I could be. And I guess that leads into the other dot point that I had about answering this question, is that to help break the cycle for me was I had to learn to love and honor myself by giving myself the time to recover. That was really important and continues to be, like the self-care element is huge in this. And I need to continue to remind myself that I'm important enough to look after myself as well. As I care for so many people in my life and obviously in my work as a counsellor, it's really easy to think that everyone else has to come first. But if I don't look after myself, I'm not going to be the best auntie, sister, friend, counsellor, neighbour, citizen of the world that I need to be and that I want to be. I guess the other thing that has stopped me from going round and round and round in the cycle has been, as I said, regular counselling. So I have regular counselling for myself, but also accountability. And so there's a few core people in my life who have closely journeyed my burnout journey with me, and they know what to ask me. And I'm pretty self-aware as well, which is counselling has helped that process, as in me having my own counselling. But I think, and so I am aware of my red flags. I'm aware of when I feel drained and physically exhausted versus mentally and emotionally and spiritually exhausted. And so I'm able to articulate that. But the people in my life are really good at saying, how are you going, Anna? How are you really going? And often that question stops me to reflect properly on it, which is something that it's so easy for me and for us to get caught up in everything else that's going on that we forget to actually stop and ask ourselves, how are we really going? So there are a few key things that helped me to break the burnout cycle and to now stop going back into the cycle as well. And so, as I said, there was another question that said, did I burn out more than once and what did I learn the first time? So I'm going to explore that in more depth next week. And I hope you have a great weekend. See ya.